May the 17th, right?
Yes.
Saturday. Sunny day, about 85. These are my collection of hearty kiwis, and they are in real need of their first pruning. I'm probably 3 or 4 weeks late getting this first pruning. This is all new growth. It's probably 5 feet already, and I should have cut it back a few weeks ago. I'm still going to cut it back. This is a Dunbarton Oaks female, and basically she has a trunk and some branches or arms, and then the branches, however, and then we create spurs. This is a Ken's Red that I pruned last week, and it has a trunk. Has one trunk going up here, and then it spreads out on 2 wires. Doesn't go too far because I don't have a lot of room in here. I should have about 15 feet. I've got about 10. And what happens now is after they bloom, oh, I should show you a kiwi. I thought I saw some on here. Well, I did. Oh, here they are. So, can you, I don't know if you can get that.
Stuck.
See the kiwis there?
Hold on, coming.
So that came from this small downward growing spur that's got quite a lot of nice fruit on it. And if I go up like this, you can see that I did a cut there, I did a cut here, I did a cut here. So I'm always taking the new growth and I'm cutting it back to just a few buds. If I do choose a bud, I like to choose a bud on top so that it'll continue growing this way instead of that way. So if I was to go, say, into this Dunbarton Oaks, and I was hoping I could show, it's got so much growth that it's hard to find where I'm going to spur it. And I don't know if the camera can get it. I've got these 2 growths here. One has fruit and the other one doesn't. And I see that this bud, if I cut right here, I am leaving a bud that goes outward, not downward. I don't want a lot of downward growth. And this one here, I will leave this bud, and I'll leave this bud because that's another upward growth bud. This is pretty much mulch, goat food, or you can do cuttings with these now. These aren't mature leaves. I probably wouldn't use this. But if I want to propagate a cutting, I cut right under the bud like that. I take off this leaf and this leaf, and then I leave the top leaves because I'm going to stick these a few inches from each other. The leaves have starches, but they're too big for a mist bed. And we may go into the greenhouse and I'll show you. But that is a cutting that can be stuck now. This is a green hardwood cutting. It's not very rubbery. And that can be, and it has the mature leaves. And that can be cut now, and in about 6 weeks it'll have roots. You can cut it up. So this still has some big leaves here, so probably the same thing. I cut the bottom, the first 2 leaves go off. I make it about 8 inches long, and then I cut. Voila, got 2 cuttings. If I'm cutting out here, I'm going to get 100 cuttings or so. I will throw them in the shade, probably in a tray, a horticultural tray. I want to back up here because I want to show you the meter male that I pruned yesterday. And this meter male has been kind of unkept for a few years. So I saw a lot of dead wood that was basically because the canopy covers it up so well that anything below it, older wood, would not get enough sun, and so it starts to die. So most of this stuff here is not green. It's basically dead from being overshaded. So I took a lot of that kind of thing out of here yesterday because I only want one canopy into the sun. And that's what I've got here. If you see some little black, those were flowers, and they are now done. We're at the end of flowering for the kiwis. There's a male kiwi flower right there. And the difference is that there's just anthers in there. There's no little, like a tulip, no little middle stamen thing. That's just the male flower. So you need male and female to pollinate one another. With this one, I've got it on a higher trellis so you can walk under it. And I did a lot of work because a lot of the new growth was shooting up from the top, so I needed a step ladder to get to it. So basically what you're doing, and I'll go back to this Ken's Red, like I did this last week, so it looks bushy. You don't see a lot of long growth. I must have missed this guy because he shot out. We had 7 inches of rain last week, so I expect to see about 8 inches a day of growth. And this is coming off of a limb that's coming this way, and it's underneath. It really isn't a necessary growth that I need, and it's actually green enough now that I can just take my hand. Sometimes the wind will do this too, and I can just break it off if I don't want it to grow there, and so it's gone. This other one that's coming out in the same way, I did cut that back to spur it. Perhaps it'll get a little sunshine. These guys really take off, and the reason I do the spur pruning is because if they're like this Dunbarton oaks and you let it grow, then all this new growth shades the interior and your fruit doesn't get enough sun. It usually ends up not developing too well. Kiwi is a very vegetative plant. It grows in the wild, and it takes it 8 or 9 years to spread out in a tall tree and then to bloom. And what I'm doing here is spur pruning it, taking all this vegetative growth and only leaving enough bud that all the carbohydrate and all the energy of the that's coming up from the roots is going into those 4 buds instead of this 5-foot long growth. So what happens is those buds become flower buds next year usually, just because you've cut this other one off. If I go in here, this one's coming. This Dunbarton Oaks does have main branches, and all this new growth is coming off of places. And when I have to make a kind of a quick conscious effort because there's a lot of work in here, but there is a main branch here and it has spurs, and I will keep this one here, and I'll take the outward bud of this one, and I'll keep this here because it may have some sun. Whereas this is coming up from the shade. You see how quickly it broke off from the wind. And I'm going to go back, and now, a month ago, I couldn't cut the older growth. It would bleed right around, when it's too late in the spring. Once I get this done, I may keep this one here, but I'm not sure, especially if it's coming from a downward growth. I want everything to be up like this and growing out that way. I don't want any kind of, and it will do it, a lot of the buds will go downward. And then what you get, they're just growing themselves right into the shade. There's just not enough sun or canopy for them. And what else can I talk about with this fruit? I may want to go, let's get onto the cordifolia here. So this cordifolia I pruned last week. Already there's growth coming from down here. Now there's a canopy right here with the fruit on it. You can maybe see the small fruits. And so really there's no place for this to really grow. I can either take this off or I can keep it short with a couple of buds, and perhaps it will be part of this. This looks like a 3 or 4 year old spur. What happens with a 3 or 4 year old spur is that other things usually take their place, because on one plant you'll have a 1 year old spur, a 2 year old spur, a 3 year old spur, and then a 4 year old spur. Usually the 4 year old spur is not very productive. This right now is very productive. It's got a lot of fruit on it. So I'm definitely not taking anything like that off. Yesterday, when I was doing the meter mail though, I was finding spurs that had basically died from the shade, and that one really got a haircut yesterday. Could you turn around and just show the canopy of that one? See how it is? There's, it looks like I missed one there. I have to bring the ladder around and get that one growth. Gives you an idea of how beautiful they really are. I have not pruned the 7449er. This guy is amazing. Just look at all the fruit. And that's because we did a lot of pruning on this last year. We must have stayed on schedule with this. But these guys, and you can see where we cut last year there, we shaped this thing. And so that's kind of a, you know, a big spur. And what I have to do now is I want to keep these fruit close to the outside. So I can't let all this growth like this grow. And again, I will look for a bud that goes up. Instead, this one is going sideways and down. I want that bud. I'll cut that right there. And usually I keep about 4 buds as my average. If it's 6, if it's 2, who cares? There's a lot of a lot of buds. I believe that in the summer in New Zealand, kids can get a well, maybe it's robots now, but probably not. But kids can get a job hand pruning, going through the kiwi orchards and doing, because this is where I learned that the growers will do this. They'll cultivate and manipulate their plants throughout the growing season. Not so much in the winter. In the winter, I do find shaded branches or older things that I couldn't quite see maybe in the summertime. So yeah, you could also prune in the winter. If you prune in the winter, dormant cuttings root really well, especially if you drop them in perlite and a heated mist bed at about February and March, when the day length gets longer again. So with that, I'm going to stop here. We're going to go and look at the mist bed, and we're going to I'll show them some cuttings. Okay. Okay, so these are the meter males that I took cuttings yesterday when I was pruning, and it takes a little bit longer because I'm getting these prunings. If I'm just pruning the tree, it's you know, you cut the time in half to prune them. But like I said, this is the bottom right there. There's a bud. These are the 2 leaves I cut off, and these are the ones I kept. And then I put them in this. This is all perlite, and it's fresh perlite. I crowned it up over the this is a horticultural tray like 22 by 13 or something like that. And I've got 2 trays, you know, for good drainage. We've got bottom heat under here. That's all perlite there. We just you know, we made this up 30 years ago probably. And there's an electric leaf, it's called. And this little gizmo here, when it dries, it goes up, and then you get water, and it mists everything and keeps it in animated suspension until it's ready to. Are you going to stay there? Yeah. So until it's ready to root, to have its own roots, this would just dry out in the hot sun. It would never live. But because we have that, it keeps everything wet. So what happens, like here is a fig over here, and you can see the fig has rooted. Okay. Oh, there's probably about 70 cuttings per tray. I might get 85 cuttings dormant because there's no leaves. But but I want to give them space so that the air can move through here. You can hear the fan on. The fan's pulling air through here and keeping these guys fresh, and less, you know, you get less disease because it's a very humid environment. Okay.